So here we are again in Watford at an ungodly hour, and I'm with this man for the second time after we haven't seen each other for 30 years, over 30 years, and then suddenly twice in 1 year. Yeah. And I saw you at the beginning of January 2016, and you were just about to go on tour with Sad Lovers and Giants. Of course, this is Garce from Sad Lovers and Giants, lead singer. And you were just about to go on tour to America. You've since been on tour.
I have.
How was it?
I'm a changed person. It's changed my world.
We should say that Sad Lovers and Giants never actually been to America before. You've toured Europe, but you've never toured America.
Yeah, it's always been the thing in the bucket, on the bucket list, top of the bucket list to play America. I think mainly because the money involved in actually doing it. We've always sensed that we had a sufficient fan base to do it, but it's actually the logistics of doing it. Nothing ever seemed to come together to make it happen, except it did this time. And
you won't mind me saying this because we're elder gentlemen. How was it with a middle-aged band touring, in the back of the bus, all crammed into one room? Did you do that, or was it a bit more...
No, I mean, we all had separate rooms, so it did stretch the budget. We could have done it a lot cheaper and slummed it, but we didn't, because actually, if we don't get enough sleep, we don't play well. We all prefer our own privacy, frankly. So we had our own rooms. I mean, I got to say that it was still in a van. We did 2,500 miles in a van, and I said to you before, we spent more time in that van. It was called Keith Van Tour Bus, we called it. Than we did in our own beds. And adrenaline gets you through that. There wasn't a lot of partying, actually, to be honest, because we'd come off stage about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then we wanted to get to bed for an early rise to drive the next 500 miles or whatever to the next gig. So it was actually quite a lot of hard work, but I think adrenaline got us through it. And at the end, every English band gets emotional about American tours, and I know why. I've done it, and for me, the myth of touring America for an English band is still very much intact.
I mean, you was telling me off camera about driving through the desert, through the Arizonian desert, and that's going back to like rock and roll roots. It's almost like the kind of Route 66 sort of deal, isn't it?
There are a lot of Spinal Tap moments.
Yeah,
I mean, the Spinal Tap is so successful because it's so true. Western culture is sort of riven with rock and roll influences, and we could extend this conversation, but it's important. It's sort of seeped into our cultural mythology, and there I was actually living part of it. It has changed my life in small ways. Everywhere we played in America, even if it was some cowboy town out in the desert, there was Sad Lovers and Giants fans there. And America is a big country. And there were Sad Lovers and Giants fans there. The last gig in LA at the Echoplex, we arrived, they bumped it up to a bigger venue. The manager came up to us and said, the good news is we've sold 450 tickets in advance, and we left the sound check. There was a queue outside. I thought it was for the soup kitchens. In fact, it was people queuing to get tickets for our gig. So, that was probably the biggest hard ticket gig we have ever done in LA, thousands of miles from home.
Why do you think that it's kind of taken over 30 years?
A lot of it is the internet age. It means people can get access to your music without it being filtered by the music press and major companies and things like that, and they can just download it. So we're also part of the 80s cultural phenomenon. I mean, that hasn't half helped. So, but what I found quite interesting was at our gigs, it wasn't like a load of old men who'd known us in their college days. There were one or two of them. There was a whole new generation of Sad Lovers and Giants fans, and it happens in Greece. And our demographics, sort of, if you play in Greece, it's 20-something female students that seem to like us, and I don't quite get it. I don't quite understand it. It's not all about revivalism.
By the way, this is the new record,
this is-
which you recorded in America.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of a story to this. The big gig in LA, it was run by a guy called Michael Stock. He's the John Peel of LA, basically. He's professor of punk at UCLA or whatever. You know, he's quite a character. He's got his own radio show, and this was a session for the radio show which he paid to do. And then he was also the promoter at the part-time punks gig that we played at the Echoplex in Echo Park. So he was quite critical to it. And also, I should say, on the way out, he was invited to do a showcase at South by Southwest in Austin. So the first gig we ever did on American soil was as part of that showcase.
Tony Visconti was the keynote speaker at that event this year, which tells you the sort of, the level
of it. Churches and Block Party were the headline British bands. So 2,000 bands playing there. We played on the first night at Barracuda Backyard. We actually stormed it. It was one of the best gigs we've ever done. And the next day, the Austin Chronicle reviewed our gig. They didn't review all the hundreds of other bands in Austin that were playing that night. They reviewed our act, and it was a very important moment in our careers, frankly. Something I'm very proud of.
Getting to America for a British band, especially a British band that are a little bit under the radar, getting the visa was pretty hard, and getting permission to do an American tour.
Yeah. The petition process, you have to produce a body of work showing that you are famous, that you're an internationally acclaimed performing artist. And when we applied first time, they didn't decline it. They wanted more evidence because they weren't sure that our fame was sustained enough over 35 years. And what our lawyers in New York wanted was a killer testimonial. And when you're facing that situation where you've invested thousands of pounds in something and it all hangs on one testimonial from a famous person, I have to say...
Did you get that?
We did. And
can I ask who by?
I was given permission by the person to actually name them if it came up in interview. So I think I can say that Peter Hook, you're my man, you really are. Peter Hook gave us a testimonial. It was...
I mean, that's a pretty, solid recommendation. Peter Hook from New Order, Joy Division.
So that's how we got the visa, basically. It was an ordeal.
Now you've done the American tour, of course, that kind of puts you on the map. That should make it easier to be able to go back again. So is there plans for another tour, another American tour?
What I would like to do, the way we recorded this session, the end result was got so much life about it. The first album we did, Epic Armies, it was done pretty much live, and we wanted to get back to that because we found we did the same thing with this. So a plan is that we go out to the same studio in LA with the same engineer for 5 days, put down the basis of our album, and top and tail it with an East Coast gig, New York maybe on the way out, and revisit the Echoplex in LA on the way back. So we'll do an East Coast gig, West Coast gig with a 5-day recording session in between.
So I mean, in America, I know Dark Entries Records, American label, they've reissued Sad Lovers and Giants album last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
You've put this one out on your own label.
This is on our own label, yeah.
And where can people get this?
They can get it from...
Which is sadloversandgiants.co.uk.
Yeah, that's the best way of getting it. Great to see you again, mate.
Likewise.
Thank you.